if you've been a long-time pro wrestling fan like myself, we all have wrestlers that we gravitate towards to and, just really like. So today I'm going to share my top 10 personal favorite wrestlers of all time, just my personal favorites. Before this video starts though, as always, please make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, comment, and turn the notifications on for this YouTube channel. If you enjoy pro wrestling content, you'll keep up to date when I post videos, and hope you all really enjoy the content. If you like pro wrestling, you're at the right place, man. You're at the right channel because we do nothing but pro wrestling content on this page. And as always, let me know your top 10 personal favorite wrestlers of all time as well. This is going to be the male list. I'm going to do the female list in a separate video. I like to separate the two. So these are going to be my top 10 favorite male wrestlers of all time, and I'll do the female list on a different separate video. First up at number 10, if you're a big fan of New Japan Pro Wrestling, you already know who this is. This is Tetsuya Naito. He's definitely one of my top 10 favorites. After rethinking about it, I had Kenny Omega in my 10th spot originally. And just after thinking about it over again, I'm like, you know what, man? Naito is my favorite New Japan Pro Wrestler of all time, and I've always liked his style, his charisma, his uniqueness. Like, I like his presentation in New Japan. Like, he just immediately caught my attention, and I just really vibed with him when I first started watching New Japan back in high school, so almost about 10 years ago, man. And I've been keeping up with New Japan Pro Wrestling ever since, and Naito's always been my dude, man. He's been one of my favorites. I would love to see him, wrestle outside of New Japan for other promotions and more in the States. I would love to see him wrestle in person before he retires. And I think he got, some years left of his career for sure. He's got a lot left in the tank. But, Naito definitely cracks the top 10 favorites of all time for me for sure, man. He's a special type of talent, and I really think, he's really one of the people that if you don't watch anything outside of WWE or not too familiar with something outside of WWE, I highly recommend you go check out Naito in Japan. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, your eyes do not deceive you. At number 9, I have Cody Rhodes. Why is Cody Rhodes on here? Listen, I wasn't a big Cody, supporter during the beginning stages of his career. When he was in Legacy, he was cool, but I actually thought Ted DiBiase Jr. was going to be the one to be the breakout star of the group. Obviously was wrong. Dashing Cody Rhodes was cool, undashing Cody Rhodes, and then he was Cody Rhodes again, with the second, Smoke and Mirrors theme song. Then he had the mustache. Then he teamed up with his brother. And then he became Stardust. Like, Cody Rhodes just didn't really bring much to the table for me because of his booking, in his first run in WWE. It wasn't until Cody left WWE in 2016, and then he had ventured out into the independent scene, and I saw him in Ring of Honor. I saw him in Impact. I saw him in New Japan. Like, it wasn't until he went out to the independent circle that I was like, Cody Rhodes is like that. Like, he could have always been a main event star for WWE if they had believed he could be one. He really showcased, to me when he turned himself into the American Nightmare and everything, and, all the stuff that he did throughout the independents and plus in AEW as well. He really showed me that he could have always been at the top level, and he really showed me that he was really good, and he just, he made me gravitate towards him and care about him. And, the more and more I continue to watch him through his rise through the independent circle, all the way to AEW, back to WWE, he's won me over as a fan. And, I truly have him in my top 10 favorites of all time. Just from his growth, watching his growth all the way on the independent circle, building himself up to the American Nightmare, the main event talent that he is today, to prove that, he belongs like in a WrestleMania main event, that he belongs to be, a world champion, that he belongs to be in the conversation as one of the best in the world, honestly. And I know some people don't like Cody, but I think Cody Rhodes is highly undervalued. I think he's a lot better than people want to give him credit for. And, everything about Cody screams money to me. He's truly made me a believer in him. And overall, he's in my top 10 favorites of all time. The man who just returned to WWE not too long ago, CM Punk, definitely is in my top 10 favorites. I've always been a fan of CM Punk from his days in Ring of Honor. Even when he came to WWE, that's when I first got introduced to him, and I had to go back and look at his stuff in Ring of Honor. But when he first came to WWE, he was a part of ECW, his tattoos, the long hair and everything, the whole straight edge gimmick. He was unique to me, man. I'm like, no, this guy is a little bit different. He doesn't look like anybody else on the roster. He doesn't talk like anybody else on the roster. His swagger's different. Like, CM Punk just brought a different aura for me personally. And as a fan, that has really gravitated towards what he was doing. But that run that he had in 2009, when he started doing the whole straight edge society stuff, that's what really made me a Punk fan. That whole gimmick truly was behind it, man. Really loved everything that he did. And, the Summer of Punk is what really honestly sold me for him to be in my top 10 favorites. He was the first guy to make me root against my number one favorite wrestler of all time, which I'll reveal later in this video. But, before CM Punk, I never rooted against my favorite wrestler of all time in any scenario. Summer of Punk was in 2011, so I was a teenager. I was starting to get older and everything and start to understand what wrestling is more from a business perspective. But, growing up, my favorite wrestler of all time, as many of, your favorite wrestlers of all time, we never rooted against them because, when you're a kid, you just want your favorites to win. But as I started to get older and have some more common knowledge, he was the first guy to, make me understand that, my favorite wrestler shouldn't win this match and, he should lose this match. It's the right thing to do, and I want Punk to win. And that's how I felt. So Punk, has definitely turned me into a big fan, and I'm so happy to see him back in WWE. I think this run, it's going to be a lot better than I think people want to give it credit for. I think some people are kind of waiting for, him to screw up or unleash the pipe bomb and, just kind of mess all the scenarios up. I think he's got his head on straight, and I think it's going to be a really good run this time around, man. And I enjoyed his work in AEW as well, the stuff he did with MJF, and, I love the stuff that he did just pretty much with anybody, honestly. Samoa Joe, that was great. It's unfortunate we didn't see him, versus Kenny and stuff for the Elite because of the whole situation that happened backstage and everything, but overall, Punk has been one of my favorites, man, for years. Next up, we have the Viper, the Apex Predator, the Legend Killer, the man of many nicknames, Randy Orton, man. Definitely one of my top 10 favorites of all time. Growing up as a kid, I never really hated Randy Orton like some people did. A lot of people, obviously, he was one of the top heels in the era that I grew up in. If you're from the Ruthless Aggression era, he was one of the top heels for years, and a lot of people despised him, which is understandable, but I never hated him, man. He was always cool to me. The Legend Killer stuff was great, but that 2009 run, that peak Randy Orton run, when he was kicking people in the skull and then he started shaving his head like a snake and everything, like, that's what really put Randy Orton on the higher echelon for me. Like, nah, Randy different, man. He's different. He's dope as shit, man. Like, Randy Orton, then, that's when he grew to be one of my top 10 favorites of all time. And plus, I think he has the greatest theme song of all time. Voices is the number one greatest WWE theme of all time to me, brother. It's an absolute certified banger right there. Number one on the list for me as the greatest WWE theme of all time. Fits with his persona, and everything about Randy Orton is just incredible, man. He truly has, I think, zero flaws in his game. Absolute legend, first ballot WWE Hall of Famer, and I love his body of work, and I'm happy to see that he's able to come back and have this run again because he had the, double back fusion spinal surgery, which could have been career-ending for him, and the fact that he's been able to come back more jacked and yoked than ever, and he looks incredible shape, and I think he's going to do some incredible stuff this run. I'm excited, and Randy Orton is definitely one of my top 10 favorites of all time. Viva la Raza, man. Eddie Guerrero is number 6 for me on my top 10 favorites of all time. Eddie Guerrero was the first wrestler that was my favorite when I first started watching wrestling. I started watching WWE in 2004, so I was about 7 years old around that time frame. And he was the first guy that instantly caught my attention. The lowriders, I was a big, lowrider fan when I was a kid. Somebody that I knew growing up had a lowrider, and, he used to put me in the lowrider and let me know, bouncing the lowrider and stuff like that with the music playing and stuff. Thought I was cool and everything when I was a kid. Man, I used to love lowriders when I was a kid. They're not as popular as today, back in the early and mid 2000s, but Eddie Guerrero just caught my attention just based off the lowriders and his charisma. The whole lie, cheat, and steal gimmick, everything about his persona, and he made you feel in the ring. Like, when he wrestled, you felt the emotion, whether he was a good guy or a bad guy. Like, he made you feel like he brought something out of you that you can't really explain, man. Like, Eddie Guerrero is just one of the all-time greats, man. God rest his soul. Was taken from us too soon, and he was my first favorite wrestler when I first started watching, man. Like, I'll never forget, first turning on that SmackDown when they had the fist as a stage and everything, and watching Eddie come out in that lowrider and be like, who's this guy? Like, this guy, he seems a little bit different than everybody else. And then watching him in the ring, watching how smooth he was, and man, Eddie Guerrero was just one of the best ever, man. Next up on my list, I have Kurt Angle, man. Kurt Angle is just one of the most entertaining, funny, and serious wrestlers of all time, man. His technical wrestling ability was top tier. Had a great run in WWE and in TNA. He actually is the one that got me started watching TNA when he went over there. I mean, once Kurt Angle went to TNA, I knew that TNA was pretty serious as a promotion. I'm like, okay, if Kurt Angle's in TNA, this is something I need to watch and keep up with more, because I knew of TNA but hadn't kept up with it fully until Kurt Angle had went there in 2006. And when he went there, I'm like, okay, this is serious. And I mean, the stuff that he did in TNA was just immaculate, man. Absolutely god tier. But his entertainment value in WWE was hilarious. The fact that he could be serious, be goofy, entertaining, and also to go out there and kick your ass in the ring, man, as the wrestling machine. Kurt Angle all around is one of the all-time greatest, man. Like, he's just an absolute legend, man. Nothing else to say. He's a legend. He's one of my top 5 favorite wrestlers of all time. Can you smell what The Rock is cooking, man? The Rock, my favorite superstar from the Attitude Era. To me, the most entertaining superstar in the history of WWE and the best on the mic, bro. The Rock has zero flaws in his game. Like, if you were going to build a wrestler on a WWE video game, you would build The Rock to me. He can be funny. He can be serious. He has super charisma, super entertaining. He can wrestle. Everything about The Rock is just money, bro. He is a legit megastar, not even just in Hollywood, but in professional wrestling. There's a reason he's the great one and the people's champion for a reason. I think The Rock was just highly entertaining to watch. So great, man. His peak didn't even really last too long, but he still cemented himself as one of the all-time greats. I mean, before he left and went to Hollywood, man. Like, The Rock is just an absolute god in wrestling, if you ask me, bro. Like, he's one of, like, the people you look at on the Mount Rushmore, or you look at, like, in the higher echelon of top superstars. The Rock's face is up there, man. You Google, in the dictionary, you look up greatness, The Rock's face is going to come up. Like, The Rock is just truly the embodiment of what a great superstar should be in professional wrestling, because he can do literally everything from a babyface and a heel perspective. He can do everything. Literally everything. Next on my list at number 3 is The Undertaker. The Undertaker actually used to be my second favorite wrestler of all time, but he got replaced by the next person you'll see, which may be a shocker or, a surprise to some people. Like I said, these are just my favorites, not the all-time greats, just my personal favorites. And The Undertaker is still one of my top 3 favorite wrestlers ever. I think he has the greatest character in WWE history. The fact that he was able to play his gimmick for so long, and people at one point in your life truly believe that he was like a dead man, like a mythical person that just wasn't human, but he was human at the same time. You couldn't really explain it, man. Like, Undertaker just had a different vibe, a different aura to him, man. Undertaker, not only is he one of the all-time greats, he's one of the people that really gravitated me towards wrestling. Like, when he came on my screen, I was glued to the TV. I watched everything he did. Like, I had to see what storylines he was in, what he had to say when he cut promos. Like, everything about Taker's entrance, you get goosebumps when you watch him walk down the ring, man. Like, you feel Undertaker, man. Like, Undertaker can make you feel as a wrestling fan. He brings out the emotion in you. Like, Undertaker is just a legend, man. He played that character to a T. The only person who really could have pulled that character off for the years that he did, from the debut in 1990 all the way to the stuff that he did through the 90s, and then turning into the American Badass, dropping the Dead Man gimmick, coming back to the Dead Man throughout the rest of the years in his career before he retired. It's just masterful, man. And the fact that he made us even believe after he left the Dead Man gimmick and came back to the Dead Man gimmick that he was still some type of dead man, just shows you how incredible he was at playing that character, man. Like, he breathed and slept and 24/7 that character nonstop for years before he dropped the gimmick and everything once he retired, man. So Undertaker is one of the all-time greats. He moves into not only my top 10 but top 3 favorite wrestlers ever. We'll go ahead and throw up the one real quick. Yes, sir, you see it. At number 2, my second favorite wrestler of all time is Roman Reigns. This whole peak with the Tribal Chief, head of the table, bloodline stuff, it puts Roman top 2 for me all time as far as my personal favorites. Now, I've never disliked Roman Reigns. He was my favorite in the Shield. I liked him when he was the big dog. I understood why people didn't like him, because I did feel like, they were trying to push him way too hard to make the fans accept him to be that guy, when they were never just going to accept him when they felt like he was a John Cena 2.0 ripoff of the gimmick that, WWE was trying to present him as. Like, they were trying to push him as this over-the-top good guy, babyface. It was just never going to work for him. The way WWE presented the big dog for those years and tried to push him, it was just never going to work for him as far as, putting him as the legit top guy so the fans could literally look at him and accept him in that position. But then when he finally turned heel and he was able to, take the handcuffs off and, was able to do his own thing with the Tribal Chief stuff, Roman Reigns during this run has shown that he could always have been this great for years if he, was allowed to be this gimmick years ago. Like, after WrestleMania 33, when he beat The Undertaker in 2017, that's when they should have turned him heel. After he came out and the crowd was just booing him with all them chants, and he, picked up that mic and said, "This is my yard now," dropped the mic and dipped, that's when they should have turned him heel right there. No doubt about it. No doubt in my mind about that. But they continued to try to push him as the big dog for years, and it was never going to work for him. But the last 3 years, what he's done, from character work to improving his mic skills, the matches that he's had, the story that he's been able to help produce. Oh my gosh, it's God tier, bro. No pun intended. I mean, I know he's been saying he's in God mode, but what he's done, he's reached a level that people can only dream about. You can even create a character as great as Roman Reigns on a WWE 2K video game. That's the type of level that he's reached, in my opinion. Like, the stuff that he's done with the championship to help it evolve to become as big as it has. The fact that he's been champ for over 1,000 days. Whoever thought we see a champion for 1,000 days in the era that we live in today? It's unheard of, and it'll probably never be replicated again. Because I don't know how you could possibly do it with the character, the storytelling, everything that matches up with it for Roman to be that guy, to be able to push that envelope, man. So Roman Reigns is truly incredible as a performer, whether people like him or not. It's just a fact, man. I truly believe he's that great. He cracks my second favorite wrestler of all time, and like Roman Reigns is just all around phenomenal, man. He's a phenomenal performer, and I think a lot of people are really gonna miss him once he's gone, because once he officially loses that championship, I don't know if we'll be seeing a lot of Roman Reigns in WWE anymore. And I think, unfortunately for Roman, he's going to be one of those great legends that really won't get the respect that he deserves until he's no longer in the sauce. Like, once he's no longer competing and he's no longer an active superstar, that's when I think people are going to miss him and recognize the great stuff that he's been able to do the last couple years as the Tribal Chief. Throwing up the mother effing salute, man. You see, number one is John Cena. If you've been following me on my TikTok for the last couple years and you've been a follower of mine for quite some time on my other social media platforms, you already know the answer was John Cena. I grew up during the Cena era. He was one of two people that I idolized and wanted to be like when I was a kid. The other guy was Kobe Bryant. May he rest in peace. I'll never have the chance to meet him, unfortunately, because he's already passed. But someday I do hope that I can meet John Cena in person and shake his hand and thank him for being one of my childhood idols, and just, you know, the contributors that he did to wrestling all the years that he did, the sacrifices that he did for his body and everything for our entertainment. Like, you know, what I mentioned before with Roman Reigns, how I said that Roman really won't be respected and appreciated until he's gone. John Cena's like that right now. You know, during the Cena peak era when he was the guy, Cena wasn't getting all that love. You know what I'm saying? Those reactions, I remember ECW One Night Stand. I remember Money in the Bank in Chicago. I remember those hostile crowds, you know, when they were booing John Cena and just, you know, begging for Cena to turn heel, and we're tired of seeing him on TV. Some people even said they claimed that they stopped watching because of John Cena. That's how much some people despise this man. But I always knew once John Cena is no longer around and he steps away from wrestling, they're going to miss John Cena. And you see it now. You don't hear the boos as much anymore. Now people are like, damn, John Cena was that great. Damn, I do miss John Cena. When he comes around, it's a special feeling because he's pushing, you know, 50 in a couple years. And he's not around as much anymore. And, you know, when he shows up, you never know when his last match is going to be at this point. So now people appreciate his greatness. They recognize the contributors that he did for WWE all those years, man. Like, John Cena, I don't think people can fathom this. John Cena, for years, once he dropped the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick and became the man, the face of WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. Once he became that guy and the fans had turned on him, John Cena for years consistently remained on top as the guy, the face of the company, without once changing his gimmick. Never turned heel, never changed who he was, but managed to be the biggest draw in the company, the biggest star, and the most relevant guy. That's really hard to do. I don't think people can fathom that. It'll probably never happen again, considering how long John Cena, you know, ran on top as the guy. I'm talking about 10 years on top as the guy. John Cena, man, was an incredible guy, man, an incredible performer. Mount Rushmore of WWE superstars all the time. I don't care what anybody says. You don't have to have him as the GOAT. That's fine. But nobody can convince me, at least otherwise, that John Cena doesn't belong on the Mount Rushmore of the greatest WWE superstars of all time. There will never be another John Cena again. It can never be replicated, which is why they booed Roman Reigns all those years as the big dog, because I think WWE was trying too hard to make Roman the next top babyface, kind of like how Cena was, and the fans saw right through that shit, and they were never going to accept it. And now Roman Reigns has his own identity as his own character, which is why he's been able to step out of the John Cena shadow, because you can never replicate anything John Cena's ever done as the guy. It can never be replicated again. There's only one John Cena. It's going to stay like that forever. He's my all-time favorite wrestler, my childhood idol, man. This was the guy that really got me into wrestling heavily when I was growing up as a kid. Well, alright, you guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you turn on the notifications once again for updated videos on the YouTube channel that I upload, and make sure you guys subscribe, like, share, comment below, man. I appreciate the support of the YouTube channel as we continue to grow. More content to come, especially now we're entering the year 2024 in a couple of days. I'm going to be posting a lot more content. I'll be grinding a lot more harder on YouTube, and I got a lot of goals that I want to reach on my YouTube channel, so hopefully I'll be able to reach them, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let me know your top 10 favorite wrestlers of all time. Just your personal favorites, man. Whoever your personal favorites are, it's your personal favorites, man. Let me know who your personal favorites are and give me some reasons why. Maybe some people that, help change your lives for the better, people that have inspired you, whatever reasons that you have, man. Let me know in the comment section below.